How does it work? An initiation by Mark Stewart. Good morning. It is September 23rd. This is the Daily Fire. I am Mark Stewart Greenstein, candidate for governor, liberty-minded candidate. Liberty in the way that our framers envisioned, in the way that our government was run for the first 130 years at least, and run quite well. And liberty in the way that almost every person that you talk to envisions, to have a government that is not intrusive, okay, that generally stays out of our lives, and a government that has relatively few laws, but they're enforced so that there aren't exceptions. There aren't these injustices that we read about of people in high places getting away with things. Liberty-minded government is one that I think we all aspire to have, and it's very doable. How does that play in to the charitable activities that we've come to expect government to do? Well, we've come to it the wrong way, because some in government wanted to expand their power, wanted to get more and more votes, wanted people to be reliant on them. Those are forces that could have been resisted, but at the same time, over the last 10 decades, Americans have been harder and harder pressed, working more and more, two spouses working, whereas that wasn't the case often 80 years ago. Americans having little time to pay as much attention as they once did, less interest, not less interest, but the feeling that they couldn't do that much. And as government got more and more powerful, they became right that they couldn't do that much. We need a revamp. This is one candidate who can start a revamp. But because I'm not alone, it's very possible. I'm not alone because 10,000 people in Connecticut signed my petition. Because over and over again, people say, we want this change. And here's an independent who's probably more able to make change, working at doing it. The vision for how those charitable impulses get well directed, even better directed without government, here it is. There's an activity you'd like to see flourish. Right now it's funded by government, which means right now it is funded by you and lots of other people. Continue to fund it. You and the lots of other people who believe in this activity, fund it directly. Don't trust the government and the machinations that happen along the way, the trade-offs, the stealing of certain funds for other purposes, the non-reading of bills, the entrusting of certain things to checked out bureaucrats that have a different agenda. Fund directly. GoFundMe is a website that has been up and running for 10 years that puts little and large causes before people. There are others. There's Kickstarter, there's Indiegogo, there's much smaller ones. All these started because individuals didn't want to see the monopoly, or close to it, that these investment banks had to help companies go public. And instead of, wow, we have to use Wall Street firms, a little firm out in San Francisco started saying, Hambrecht and Quist was their name, we can do this a lot more cheaply and a lot more democratically. Well, California led the way too, with all these other firms getting sites that people adhere to. Connecticut can do the same. We become the conduit to the same impulses that everyone, or selectively, one to one to one, to charity, wants to fund. That means that many services that are underfunded now get better funded. That means that some services don't get funded well. They're the ones that the states approve but shouldn't have. And there's the middle. The ones that are marginally funded, that because there's a chance of getting better funded by us, do better. What do they have to do differently? It's just a change in how they market themselves. Right now, they have to make proposals to legislators or bureaucrats. They have to do research. They have to be basically lobbying. Instead, lobby to people. And the easy way, show yourself give testimonials, show people getting the benefit of your homeless shelter, of your alcohol rehab service, of your Clean Up Long Island Sound work. Let people see your work in progress. Let individuals say, I want to fund that. And because they're not funding the government so darn much, they have the money to fund that. The mechanism starts still with the state, but the state will wither away in that purpose. The state puts a thumb on the scale so that certain services don't get abruptly dropped when we do perceive there's a need for a slow drop or maybe no drop at all. So the state has for 2 years the thumb on the scale, I call it. But the people are empowered to say, I'm going through a state website, then maybe I'm going directly, and it intermingles with private charities. The good things that are privately, partly funded now can be directly funded by people who want to, people who say, I'm not putting my money into that, or I'm not doing it unless it's private and not with state auspices. You now have that choice. It's a beautiful change. Look, people have changed payment systems, well, PayPal for one, Venmo another, just different ways of paying. The same charitable impulses with the same dollars, more dollars, less dollars, you decide. It's a beautiful new world coming out of, yes, kind of a crisis in Connecticut, but from crisis we're going to get a much fairer way of funding and a much better set of government. I'm happy to be at the lead. Thank you for your support thus far.